Hi, so my name is Tracee Dunblazier. I'm a spiritual empath. That's where it all started. Was being a child and being demonically challenged. Night terrors, all the scary things that people talk about. I had all of those experiences as a child and was given the opportunity to find my way through them and the space and the latitude in my family dynamic to be able to do that. So welcome. I see that nobody else could come up with anything better to do today. So thank you for coming. Today we're going to talk about the Oracle of the In-Between. And in fact, I'm going to pass these bad boys out because I will forget to do it later. Thank you, James. The In-Between is a broad subject. The in-between is literally the in-between of everything, right? So you have you, and then you have what comes together between you. And it is the awareness of divining that, receiving that. And there are certain times of day, which is what started the deck, which started working with the deck or the idea for the deck was dawn, dusk, midnight, and noon. Those are all in-between times that when the earth travels and we get to those times, it taps us into information that we are not privy to at other times in a particular way. And I don't necessarily think that we're not privy to it. I just think that it is in those times that we stop a moment to reflect on where we're at, what's going on, and to receive that energy information. So I don't know how long ago this was, so I won't even date myself there, but 1 July, I was sitting, and it was the first feeling of fall that came through. That I was so excited last night. My heat came on this morning, and I was like, "Oh my God, it's 68 degrees! I love it." But that first feeling of fall, when that chill is in the air, and it was July. It was like July 15th, and I'm like, "Wow, that's kind of early." But I sat there. It was like the middle of the day, and it's July 15th, and this cool rush went through me, and for the first time, it's like, I was opened up to something new. I could see in the future, and I could see in the past. I could feel being perfectly present. And I realized that those aren't buzzwords. You know what I mean? In the New Age community, which I know we don't use that term anymore, but in the mind, body, spirit community, we talk a lot about these concepts that when you have a day-to-day that does not include taking a moment and gasping, it's kind of dramatic. But the minute you tune in to any of those times, it is kind of dramatic. It opens you up to something new that maybe you were seeking, maybe that you need to seek, maybe, it's something new for you to see in yourself or other people or your situation. So that was the thing that I was like, wow, that's something really special. And then I realized when I started writing, more than anything, is that when I write, I wake up at 2 a.m. I usually have a dream, spirit wakes me up, and then I get up and I write it. And I'll write until maybe 8 or 9 a.m. And then once the day starts, it's downhill from there. So by the time we get to noon, which is one of the things that I talk about, I don't base this on those times, but that's the first way that I think that people can really resonate with the times of the in-between is, dawn, dusk, midnight, and noon. And noon, most people are in their busy day, so they don't necessarily take that siesta time to, have a meal, or if they've been up since the sun is up, you're going on your first crash, and you need to take a moment and be quiet and, replenish yourself. And so all of these times are reflective. So I am going to... Where are you? Where'd my deck go? Okay, of course, they're directly in back of me. There I go. I got them. That's hilarious. So with the deck, when you are tuning into, one of the things the Lakota believe, and that's obviously a broad statement. I'm not speaking from any specific tribe, but Lakota knowledge is about connecting to your hour of power, right? Some people are night owls, and they, can't sleep until 4 a.m. Some people are like me who get up at 2 a.m. and then I'm in bed by 4 p.m. So when you tune into the hour that it puts you right with yourself, it starts a cycle for you that allows you some freedom and some authority and some mastery, right? It allows you to receive the in-between information is a transition. It's from going from one perspective to another, or one frame of reference, or one condition to another. Like, we're always in transition in some way. And so when you tune into your physical world and you get in the rhythm, your biorhythms with the planet, it empowers you. You enlist the universe to do your bidding in a way that is unlike any other experience. And even if, whatever your hour of power is, it's honoring it by mindfully creating your cycle at that time. And so that's why I thought, well, with the deck, it's a great opportunity to choose cards at the time of the in-between. Another thing that I talk about in the deck, okay, we got interdependence, right? So interdependence, we have the bee and the honey on the flower, and then the universe with the shadow. Bees, I'm sure everybody know, in the last several years, we've lost a lot of bees, and we've realized the impact that how we're treating the planet, the pesticides we're using, how it's killing the bees, and how it's impacting our crops, how it's impacting our food, right? And it really brings home the idea of how we are interconnected with one another, right? So this card for all of us here today is to recognize how we are interconnected, how we impact each other just by being present with each other. There's each individual, and then there's the group connection and group energy. Another fabulous in-between for me is directions. Northeast, northwest, southeast, southwest, right? Anytime you shift, I don't know if has anybody ever had a fight here? I mean, not here, not a brawl, I'm not talking about, but anytime you're in a conflict, right? It's a natural thing when two people are in conflict, especially couples, is they lock in, right? When somebody locks in. The only time I really remember this happening, I was 16 years old. My dad was dead. My mom was very frustrated, and I had two older sisters who were gone already, and so it was just me and Mom. And I cried all the time, and she didn't know what to do with that. And so this one day we were in the kitchen and we're arguing, and she'd never hit me before. She smacked my arm, and I raised up and I smacked her arm back. I didn't hurt her, but I went whoop, and then we locked eyes, and it was like I felt like we were two lions there. And then it was just like, okay, right? There's nowhere to go with that when you lock in that way. And that's what the directions of the in-between are fantastic, because just turn your direction. Instead of being direct and facing head on, turn your body in any direction, and it will completely ground the conflict and create space for a solution, right? So that's, when we're talking about being in the in-between, it means that we are asking for and requiring of ourselves to allow the transformative experience to continue to move forward, right? When things are changing, they're not ever going to stop forever. They may feel like they stop. They don't ever stop. They continue going. But a way that you step into that is by just shifting a degree or two in any direction. And that's an in-between. Now, I wanted to do a fun little experience. So everybody, I see everybody, many people came with friends or partners. So stand up and change places with somebody you don't know.
You don't change. I'll take yours, yes.
Good. That's funny. So the point, when you change places, I want everybody to take a deep breath and just close your eyes and just sense the energy now between you and the person that's sitting next to you. And allow a word or a thought or an idea to come up into your mind. And then consider that word and how it's different than when you spend time with the people that you're used to being around. You know, what is your spirit telling you from that in-between meeting? Is it an instruction? Is it an awareness? Is it a compliment? And then take another deep breath and just bring yourself back. The in-between happens every minute of every day, all the time, in any situation. And when we can take that 2 minutes, did I see 2 minutes? That was not 2 minutes, that was like 2 seconds. I don't mean to, don't take 2 minutes, because good God, they're going to think you're a stalker. You know, take 2 seconds. Go walk up to somebody and don't do that. That would not be good. Yes, it would. Exactly. Coffee shops are made for such behaviors, I think. Yeah. The point is that in any moment, in any day, no matter what's happening for you, you can tune in to some new energy, some new information, and a new awareness about yourself and whatever is happening. And allow that to signal you forward in any way, shape, or form. So what I'm going to do now is I want everybody, actually, take a card and pass them down. We're going to do a group reading, right? So this is every card. You're going to give it to me. And I'm going to lay them out here, and then I'm going to do a little reading. Let's see. Sorry, James, I'm trying to. Okay, good. One of the types of readings that I love with these particular cards is, it's called a storyboard. Thank you. And so you just line them up and read left to right, or right to left. If you're into manga, you can totally read right to left. Thank you. Thank you. I'm laughing because she got chaos. Sorry. Now the idea, each of these cards talk about an energetic dynamic, right? So my goal in this was not to divine for people necessarily their futures, but to help them to access a story that's happening, a story about their condition, a story about their situation, a story about themselves that they may not know, or maybe they're uncomfortable with it, or maybe it's something that's coming for them. And that story changes in the morning. Your story is going to be different than it is at noon, than it is at dusk, and than it is in the middle of the night. Who wakes up in the middle of the night and likes it. Right? Thank you. Oftentimes people have associations with waking up at 3 a.m. because they've been woken up by a spirit or a dream or something in their consciousness that they've not been able to get right with during the day. And so that's not necessarily a truth, but when it comes up at night, it's meant for you to pay attention to it, right? So in the morning, if you're wanting to start a new project, that's the time to do a reading for yourself, get up earlier than you're used to, or whatever your hour of power is, but that you honor that time to start a new project, that you start in alignment, not only with you, but the planet and the cosmos, right? So that everybody's online. So when you are resting and reflecting about your morning, about your project, that's what you do at noontime. In the evening is the time, I learned a new word doing this deck, crepuscular. Crepuscular. That means that we are creatures that like to be out at dusk and dawn. Coyotes are crepuscular creatures. They feed at dawn and dusk, right? So as the sun is just not coming up yet or just going down is when they feel the most comfortable to be out to get their meal, right? So there's something that's waking up in their visceral needs, but also their shadow. That part of yourself that is hidden to you comes at the end of the day because you're relaxed. There's still an element of clarity that comes, but there's a relaxation and a clarity that those two things coming together allow you to see a new perspective that you may not have seen before. And then that leads us to the 3 a.m. calls, right? One time I was a manager at a 40-unit complex in Los Angeles, and I had this friendship with this man who, before I was the manager, I didn't really know anybody, and then I met everybody. Anyway, but this dude had so much stuff going on, and I could say he was a hot mess, but he was very in control of his mess. So, I don't mean to be judgmental. It's not about being judgmental. He was complex, let's say that. But I swear to God, Spirit would wake me up at 3 a.m. or 2 a.m., go look now, go do this. And one time somebody said, Tracee. I mean, the veil opened and Tracee. And there was nobody in the room, right? And so those are the things that when our spirit is ready to receive new information or accurate information or, sometimes information that we don't always want to see people as they are. We want to see them as we would like them to be, right? So that's your kind of 3 a.m. calling card, is whatever truth has been following you is what makes itself present to you at that time. So having said that, does anybody have any questions from that? Okay, good. So now I'm going to take a moment and look at our reading. I'm going to read it in two. So forgive my back just for a second. So when you do a group reading, right, as I said, there's each individual has their own energy. And then there is the energy that comes together in the group. And so when I do a group reading, it's that there's a piece of information that everybody here has in common, right? And so we're gonna see if we hit that today. So the first line of cards is talking about everybody here has been struggling with new awakenings, new habits, new things that are needed, that are new and uncomfortable. And there's been this vision, and then there's this emotional cataclysm that comes after the awakening that people see as sometimes anxiety, depression, or mental illness, or they see it as something that is negative or uncomfortable. And while I understand it can be uncomfortable, but there's a breaking apart so that things can integrate in a new way. And it's through that suffering that creates the space that makes a person more receptive to the need for the idea, and for the idea itself, and for the behavior that then comes after you've had the idea. As you have enough of that, as the wave of emotion grows and grows and grows, you hit a threshold that then pushes you over the edge into what we'll call enlightenment. Enlightenment isn't necessarily being smarter. Enlightenment is being lighter. Being enlightened, having your burdens lessened for you. Having a perspective that allows you to be more inclusive and more open and more at ease with who other people are, whether or not you like them, or whether or not it's working out well, or whether or not it's easy, right? But that we find a place of peace to embrace what in fact is happening, not yet what we hope to be happening, but what is happening. And it is when you hit that threshold that you are offered what's coming up here is ritual, but all of the behaviors that now personify this new idea, right? So for me, I love altars. That's why I do cards. I love any kind of divining, not because I don't have access without them, but because they are all representations of our many cultures in the world. I've studied many religions, many different cultures, and everybody has their magical practice, their way of identifying this magical space of transition. And so using any tool, right? A ritual, if you say a prayer, if you have an altar, if you, read a book for 15 minutes and that's new for you, like whatever thing that you do to, as a commitment to this new idea and this new behavior, that's what your ritual is. So that's the first line. Anybody identify? Good. Now the second starts with chaos. One of my favorite cards in the deck is freedom. And if you'll notice, you can see this horse has broken free from the carousel and it's flying. Oh, there she is. Right up there, you can see it. And her little carousel pole is broken because she is out of there, man. And this next line is talking about what's happening now. Right now, it feels like there's a lot of chaos and things are breaking apart. What our ancestors have been through, their pain, their suffering, the planet, it's all breaking apart purposefully, right? The old ideas have to break apart so that we can create a new space to live in peace, find internal peace, find peace for ourselves, right? We will never live in peace with others if we don't have even a slight bit of peace or contentment, or at least acceptance, right, with ourselves. And so the chaos sows the seed that forges the sword that clears away anything that's unnecessary. Just I always think, choom, 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 choom. Right? It's this idea that just magically, with a swipe of the hand, it can go away, and it really can be that effortless. But that leads us to freedom. And then the next card is speak, right? It leads us to freedom, and that freedom, the only freedom we really have here, because we're in a body, so until you tap out, you're in it, and this is what it is. Right? And so the freedom that we have is through our expression, through our voice, not how other people want to hear us communicate, but the fact that we do communicate, and the fact that we are true to our feelings in how and what we communicate. And interesting, what comes next is the ancestors. And it's connecting, and then interdependence is the end of that line. And so how we express ourselves, expressing ourselves in a way that our parents couldn't, and that their parents couldn't, and their parents couldn't, right? That we are descendants of great people who made huge mistakes, lived through profound things, and now we are here to be able to express what they couldn't, to try to reckon what they couldn't. And again, it ends, interestingly enough, we started out with interdependence, and that's the last line of the card. The last line of the second reading is the card interdependence. All of this is interconnected. And scene. I was just like, whoop. just stopped. Just pew. Oh, that's funny. How am I doing on time here? What do we got? Okay, good. So we're on time. Does anybody have any questions for me about the cards, about anything? What do you got for me, Sean?
I know you talked about a little bit about your inspiration, but can you talk about your process writing specifically for these cards, like any ones you might have got stuck on, or some that just came easily, like just some of the nuances of your process?
Well, one of the interesting things that I found with this, I'm not really attached to my writing. You know, I absolutely lean on people who know more than me. I learned a lot from my editor, because how you write is not how you speak, and it totally changes somebody else's experience to write. But, well, two stories. One is when the first draft was done, I read it from cover to cover. And I was like, oh my God, this is so stupid. It's like I literally felt like I was saying the exact same thing in every different card. I just feel like it was just repetitive, and I was just like, oh my God, this is the worst thing I've ever done. Like I was like, ah. And then when I got my deck in the mail, when I got the first prototype of it, and I took a card and I did a reading, I was like, oh, okay. Because then I'd had some space from it. I didn't recognize the writing. I didn't even recognize the voice necessarily. And each of them had a distinct meaning that I could see in that context, and I felt great relief. But that was an interesting thing for me to have never had that. I worked with the artist, Yasmin Westwood. She is crazy prolific. She's got another deck right now that just came out in September called the Westwood Tarot. And all of her art is just so fantastical and interesting. And I did not know. She lost her husband. He died by suicide. She's very open about it. But I mention it here because that was 3 years ago, and she's created like 10 decks. This is her lifeblood to create this art. And she expresses so deeply all of these different ideas in it. And what we wanted to do is to really tap into different energies or dynamics that connected us to physics, right? How do you take a physics principle but talk about it in an emotional and spiritual way, right? Because everything resonates on every level, but we just don't really talk about that as much. And so that's what we wanted to focus the deck on. But so we came up with our words together, and then I started, and I would send something to her, and sometimes like with the freedom, that was one draft. She handed that to me, and I was like, oh my God, that is amazing. Like, who thinks of that, right? The horse leaving the carousel, like right? And I was so ecstatic for that. And then the next card I got, and I'm like, oh my God, I don't even know what that is. And so and then communicating that, because sometimes she and I were in sync, and then sometimes we weren't at all. You probably don't know this, but I am a solitary practitioner. I pretty much do everything in my career. I've pretty much done it all on my own. And so to work in conjunction, I feel like I can do that, but maybe I can't so much. Anyway, but it was a challenge. It was a challenge to go, okay, let's not respond so dramatically, and let's work through how you feel about what she presented to you, and figure out where you think she's coming from, and why. How did she get that from what you wrote, right? So there was a lot of, and that didn't actually happen too many times. One card it did happen with, which is hilarious, is this receptivity. And I think that this little chick looks kind of freaky, that little freaky eye. And I don't know that I'm in love with that, but I was like, you know what? We went through 2 or 3 different iterations, and this is what she wanted to settle on, and I was like, okay. So it was an act of letting other people enjoy, or letting it speak to whomever it speaks to, right? Me doing this deck really wasn't about me. Might have started with me, but it's always about you. If you're going to use the deck, if you're reading with it, it's about you and how you see it. And so that was another big learning in this process of going back and forth. And then the other aspect is that she doesn't read cards herself, which I was shocked. She has all these decks and doesn't really read. I was like, oh, well, isn't that interesting? So a lot of our process was telepathic. Let me say that. She's also in Scotland. So it's not like we could say, hey, what's up? We communicated mostly on Facebook. Anyway, but it was really powerful for all of those reasons. It was very much a growth experience for me. Anybody else? Yes.
I have a very dear friend who several months ago, she was in the middle of a dream, and the dream stopped, and a voice said to her, check your left breast. A tumor. You have a tumor. She called me the next day, and she knows I do some stuff with dreams. And I said, Sandy, go see your doctor.
Yeah.
She did. She had a very aggressive form of cancer in her left breast.
Wow.
She just had surgery last Tuesday.
Wow.
And hopefully.
Yes.
Yeah. And it seems so incredible to me that
how it
we
came.
know so much and we don't recognize it.
Yes. Did everybody hear that story? I can. So she was talking about a very good friend who woke up from a dream that told her to check her breast for a tumor, that she had a tumor. And that it turned out to be, and she came to you and told you about the dream, and you were like, go to the doctor now, do it. And she did, and she's now getting treatment. She had surgery. But
surgery last Tuesday.
Surgery last Tuesday. It's that we have all of this information and tells around us that we don't always pay attention until they say, hey. So that's amazing. Thank goodness that happened.
Amen. Yes.
Yes, indeed. Thank you for sharing that. Anybody else? Any question, thought, idea?
When you talk about the in-between, I kind of share some ideas about time of day, different things. Do you have anything you'd like to share about kind of the in-between in the sense of a dimensional in-between? Or in-between dimensional experiences?
So the in-between is so when we talk about multiple dimensions, one way to receive that or to talk about that is hearing energy, seeing energy, feeling energy, and just knowing energy. So it's like a form of channeling, right? So those are different dimensions, right? Physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, right? Then we have the connections, like we're talking about here. What is in between? What is that space in between that we transition from place to place? It's so interesting. I don't know if I have anything to say about that, but let me take a moment. Everything is the in-between. And that was one of the things that I learned by doing this deck and having this experience, and why they presented themselves to me as, oh, you're saying the same thing in every single card. Well, part of that is because it is all the same. It's all what the nuances are when where we're at, how we feel, what we want, and what's happening, and our ability to accept it or not. Right? So we are always transitioning between two of those things at any given time about something. And the in-between is not static. It is always moving. And it's what some people would call the flow. Like when you get in flow with something, that means you have surrendered, that you are beginning to cultivate faith. You're beginning to accept that, you know what, I don't like what's happening, but I'm going to just take a deep breath and go with it and see where it leads me. You know, and hopefully the idea of mastery comes when we can be deliberate in that flow. Right? So when the spaceship comes, that you get on that ship and you go. Did that answer your question? Good. Anybody else have anything for me? Well, we have two lovely readers here today that are going to do $20 readings for you. 10, 15-minute readings. James, and I don't know your real name, Janae. Jillian, thank you. James and Jillian are going to be doing readings from 4 to 6 with the deck. So you can purchase your deck. We've got decks here. We've got all of my different works here. We've got the calendars. You absolutely have to have a calendar because it's limited edition. It won't ever happen again. So thank you all very much for coming. It's been a real pleasure.